Joe Call, who lived in Essex County, New York until his death in 1834, was reported to be the strongest man in America. Joe is a beloved hero among the mountains and hills of the Adirondacks. There was said to have been a very powerful Call sister who was hardly second to Joe in physical prowess, Bess Call. She is a favorite of storytellers. Strongman Joe Call had a sister, Bess, who was also as big as life and twice as natural. She was younger than he was, a little shorter, not quite 6 feet tall, but just as sturdy. She was as broad as a Dutch barn and had double joints and a double set of teeth, just like Joe. Stories say that she was as handsome as her brother was plain, having eyes as blue as whetstones and hair as black as a stack of black cats in the dark. Now, Bess usually gave the appearance of being as calm as a pan of skim milk. But when they were young, Bess had been the terror of the neighborhood bullies who tormented smaller children or helpless animals. Just let her spot a ruffian taking sweets from a toddler or tying a can to a dog's tail. She would squeeze up her face and curl her hands into fists and bellow, "Leave off what you're doing, or I'm going to thrash you within an inch of your life." Those who chose to stand their ground soon found that Bess had the brawn to back her threat. "That's not ladylike," people would scold, pointing to her scuffed shoes and torn pinafore, trophies of her most recent battle. But Bess just shrugged off such carping and went her own way, as independent as a hog on ice. "If I'd have been born in olden times," she would tell her brother, "you wouldn't find me sitting around a castle being ladylike, wearing a pointy hat and pining for some prince to come looking for me. I'd fetch me some gold armor and go fight dragons and wicked kings and such every day." Joe was different. He liked wrestling for the fun of it. For a time, he traveled throughout the world, engaging in wrestling matches one after the other. But as he got a bit older, he grew more settled in his ways. So one day, he and Bess bought a farm and put all their efforts into making the place a roaring success. But day after day, one by one, young men traipsed out to challenge Joe, even though he had long since finished with wrestling. Sometimes he could talk them out of it. Sometimes there was nothing for it but for Joe to just pin them and send them packing. One hot summer morning, a wrestler rode out on horseback to the Call's hometown of Lewis. Across the sea in England, he had heard of Joe's prowess and had come to challenge the Lewis Giant, as Joe had come to be known. He came upon Joe, who had paused to take a breather while plowing a field. At that moment, Joe had halted the team of oxen so that he could jaw with Bess, who had just finished splitting a cord of wood into kindling. As they talked, he downed a jug of lemonade. Because he had never met Joe, the stranger paused and asked, "Sir, could you direct to the Call homestead?" Still drinking lemonade, Joe lifted his huge plow and pointed toward the farmhouse down the road a piece. The man's face fell. "I believe you must be Joe Call," he said weakly. Joe nodded. "Well," said the stranger, "I came here hoping to have a match with you, but I think perhaps this is not the best day for it." "It's hotter than Hannah," Joe agreed. At this, the hopeful champion turned tail and galloped back toward town. As she watched him go, Bess grinned and said, "That feller's face looked long enough to eat oats out of a churn." After a minute, she lifted up the plow, pointed to the blade, and said to her brother, "This is getting mighty dull. I'll sharpen it when you're finished plowing tonight."